Welcome to Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Well, today's video, we're going to be making a 3-jarred fountain drain grate. This fountain is approximately 4 feet by 4 feet. The basin is. I've poured a concrete stem wall foundation around the perimeter of this, raising it up about 6 to 8 inches above the basin itself. These jars, urns, or pots, whatever you want to call them, are about 200 pounds a piece, and that's a lot of weight going on top of this. And so the owner has asked me to design something that's going to work well, it's going to be nice and flat and level, and it's going to hold these urns or jars when they're full of water and water's coming out of the top of them. So I've come up with these grates that are approximately 2 feet wide, 6 feet long, and I'll need 3 of those to make it across. They're going to cantilever over the outside edge by a couple of inches. I'm also going to have one access port in the corner that's about 3 feet by 2 feet. We'll be able to lift that section off to maintain the pumps and the equipment and stuff that are down in that area. All right, it's going to be a good project. We're going to be using some 5/8 by 2-inch flat bar stock. Now, these grates might be pretty heavy at the end of the day. We'll see. Let's get started on today's project. All right, so like I said, we're starting out with some 5/8 by 2-inch flat bar stock. And you know, when I picked this up from the metal supply store, it kind of weighted the old Ford Ranger down quite a bit, and I knew that this was going to be a heavy project at the very end. But anyways, I first coated the welding table down with some of this 350 weld clean, that anti-spatter stuff. You know, there's going to be a lot of welding going on right here, and I just don't want to get any spatter on the welding table. You can see that I had some of these, the intermediate pieces here pre-cut from my metal supply store. There was about 100 of these things ultimately, and that was just too much for me to cut, so I had them pre-cut. The longer pieces I cut myself. You can see that I'm just clamping everything in, getting everything nice and square. This is the initial frame of one of the grates, and you can just see I'm checking everything for square. And like always with the fab table right here, I'm telling you that everything is always square. So I couldn't decide which machine to use right here. There's lots of different processes available. I decided to fire up the HP ProPulse 220 MTS on this one right here. I was going to give this a try. I'm just using some regular MIG. I cranked it up to the max, 416 inches a minute on this, and wanted to just see how that worked out, and that's worked out pretty good. There was also spray arc available for me, but I chose this, and also dual shield flux core, which I am going to do a little bit of that a little bit later on. So for the frame, you can just see these things are spaced at about 2 inches apart. So I've got some 2-inch by 2-inch square tube, and I'm using those as spacers. And I got a couple pieces in there because I've got a clamp that I want to put in between and hold everything down. You know, I've had some experience with this before. I did some drain grates for another project for a concrete plant here, I don't know, 6 months or so ago. And you know, you learn from everything. I didn't clamp anything down there, and I had a little bit of deflection, a little bit of warpage. And so, you know, you learn that you want to just clamp everything down, keep everything nice and flat. And check for level, check for square, and do that quite often. Also measuring from the end, you can see me doing after every single one. If you get off just an 1/8 of an inch on one and you don't check, man, after about 4 or 5, you're going to be out of, you know, an inch or so. So it's always good to check your distance here on something like this and be sure that you're staying on track. So I'm just putting a little bit of a weld here just on the very top, and a couple of beads on the side, about 1 inch on either side. You can see that I've got some nozzle dip right here. You know, it's starting to build a lot of I don't know, just debris inside the nozzle, and you know, it's hot temperature here, and you know, a lot of big wire feed speed, so that nozzle dip works pretty good. You know, something like that, just dip it one time on a project like this, and you know, it stays pretty clean. So like I said, I was just going along here and just putting these in. You can just see I got a weld at the very top. And like I said, you know, about a bead, an inch long on the inside there on both directions. And then I'll flip this around and we'll catch another weld on the other side. You know, one thing that worked out really good for me here too is you can see I've got my torch lead holder, my MIG gun holder right there. And, you know, this is just ideal for a project like this because you're constantly having the torch in your hand. You know, you're setting it down, you're picking it up, and you're just using it. And this thing worked out really good for me in this situation right here. All right, just moving along right here again. You know, it's kind of just repetitive work right here. Just double checking every single measurement. It's kind of tedious, but you know, if you don't do this, it's just going to be a problem for you down the road for sure. I've learned the hard way, and so I'm constantly learning. And that's the thing about fabrication. You know, nothing's the same. Everything is different all the time, and you're just constantly learning. Hopefully, you know, improving your technique on every single job that you do. You know, like I said, I had plenty of options right here. You know, in the process I was using, this one worked out pretty good for me. You know, the spray arc MIG is good too. That worked out pretty good. But for these short little passes like this, or little tacks, I don't know, they're more than a tack. I guess they're 5/8 on the very top and an inch down the side. This seemed to work out the best. You know, dual shield flux core, you know, that works good. You know, on the flat part too. But you know, I'll give that a try on the other side here a little bit later on. All right, I'm moving right down to the very end right here, and you know, sometimes from about this point right here, I like to measure to be sure that the spacing is going to work out. And sometimes I got to make an adjustment. If it's not 2 inches, it might be 1 3/4 inches or 2 1/8 or whatever it is to have them work out equally. And in this case, it actually worked out almost right on the money. So you can see this is the last piece right here. And I took this out and dropped it in, and it was almost perfect. The beauty about having all these fixture clamps, you can see that, you know, I got these little extra long ones right here, and that worked out in this situation right here. The short ones couldn't quite reach across. All right, with that side all done, what I need to do right now is just kind of grind these welds flat across the very top right here. Because this is going to be sitting on a, you know, there's concrete surface on one side, and of course the other side needs to be flat. They're going to be, you know, putting, you know, some screen and some rocks on this. The urns will need to sit nice and flat, so I need to grind these welds nice and flat to keep everything nice and flat. Yeah, I was right here when I realized that, oh boy, this thing is really heavy, and I was really concerned about how I was going to flip this thing over. I hadn't tried it at this point, but I knew that it was going to be heavy. I'm just trying to keep moving forward right here. All right, so right there, yep, I just could not flip it over. My guess is probably probably around 300 pounds. I just couldn't quite flip it over. But I did remember I had this cherry picker here behind my garage. Ever since I'd moved in, I've completely forgot about it. And it was just all of a sudden I remembered, man, I got this thing. Maybe this is going to work out for me. Now, I've never used this thing. This was given to me, and I'd never used it before, so I'm just learning for the first time. And so it seems to be working out pretty good. I was a little skeptical at first. I don't know how these things maneuver, how they move around. But you know, the weight limit on this when the bar is fully extended said it was 2,000 pounds. Now, I know that this is only probably around 300, so I didn't have too much of an issue. And you can see that worked out pretty good, pretty effortlessly for me, just cranking it up right there. And then I just went ahead and just laid it down slowly. It worked out pretty good. You know, eventually I'm probably going to do a gantry or something. I think that's going to be better. This worked out pretty good, but you know, there were some issues. I don't know. Maybe I can modify this in some way, but we'll see how things go. All right, just got to lift this thing. This is the first go at, so I'm just kind of figuring out how things have to happen here. And I had to block it up a little bit, and then it laid down pretty good. All right, so this is when I switched over to the dual shield flux core, and you can see I'm just right about 409 inches a minute right here. This is a lot smoother than the regular MIG on this, but you know, hey, I did it because I can. I've got these options, and it's nice to be able to use everything you can when you can. This was this worked a lot faster, a lot smoother. You can see I'm jumping around a little bit here. I'm not starting at one end and going all the way to the other end. I was a little bit nervous about deflection. I didn't want to put the heat all in one area. I wanted to jump around a little bit, but I don't really think that really mattered. I probably could have just welded all the way through. I didn't get any kind of deflection at all, so that would have probably worked out just fine if I went all the way through. But you know, you never know. Just trying to do what you think is right on something like this. You can see me right there. This is a trimmable flap disc by Mercer, and I don't use this all the time, but that right there was an example. I was grinding away, and I just caught the edge right there, and I trimmed that down, and I was able to get double the use out of that flap disc. Definitely worked well. All right, so these are just some 1/8 inch by 4 inch. This is just some flat bar stock, and I'm welding to the outside. What's ultimately going to happen right here, these grates all are going to have this this about 2 inches of flat bar all the way around the outside. That's going to retain some rock. They're going to ultimately put some screen on the top of this and lay some 1 to 2 inch rock across the whole top of everything. And the water is going to filter through the rock through the screen. So that's what that's what this is. I've got it's 4 inches tall, so it's 2 inches up on the side. So that's what we're doing right there. And so here again, I'm just kind of finished with this one right here. So I'm going to try my luck at lifting it off and lowering it down. I marked the center right there. I got to say, this was a lifesaver for me. You know, I've done a lot of heavy work in the shop and has managed to get things done. But, you know, mostly everything I do is by myself, and you know, I do struggle, especially on heavier projects like this. But this worked out pretty good. The old cherry picker came through. You can just see I just slid it right off, and then I'm just able to push it around and push it into place. For right now, I'm just going to lower it down right here. I've got a few more of these to make, and I'm just going to store it right over here for now. All right, so this is the second grate right here, and it's pretty much the same thing. You can see I got my table dogs there, 2 on either side, clamp everything down, and check for square. Everything is nice and squared and ready to move forward. Same process. I jumped back with the ProPulse 220 MTS right here and cranked it up full speed, and I'm just going to go with it. That seemed to work pretty good on the last one. You know, I like to keep everything, like I said, I've got, you look at it, you can see all the fixture clamps I've got clamped everything down. I want to keep it that way. I'm just afraid if you start dumping a lot of heat in one place all the way along like this, these you know, it's going to move around. So by keeping everything nice and clamped down, everything has stayed put and didn't move around on me, and it just made for a better job. You can see I've got them spaced across there about every foot or so apart. The reason why I do that is if you start doing something like this and welding from one end, it has a tendency to bow in on you. So that's why I've got those things spaced evenly across there to keep that from happening. And that makes it a little bit easier to put these things in as I go along. You know, having these things also, these intermediate pieces cut from my metal supply store, makes things a lot easier. They have a precision bandsaw down there, so these things are exactly right on the money, and it's so much better for me. If I had to cut each and every one of these things, I couldn't imagine. I've probably gone through a couple of blades, and it's just a lot of work. So sometimes it's just better. In my case, I'm very fortunate. My metal supply store has a full-on fabrication shop in there, and they do metal cutting and bending and just everything that there is. So I'm lucky that you know, I'm able to have that done. Some places you know, just don't have that capability. All right, so you can see this is just repetitive. This is pretty much the same thing. At the very end of this one right here, though, this is going to be, I believe, the last one. And this one is going to get, cut in half. This is where we're going to gain the access door here. So we're just going to go ahead and finish this one up and move on to that. You see me checking with this little machinist square I have for plumb. They get out of plumb easy and fast, and if you don't, again, check for your measurements and keep everything square, everything can get out of control and get out of square and get out of plumb really fast, and you're going to have a bigger problem. So far, so good right here in this project, though. It's moving along really good, and this lined up really good again. The grates are the same size, so I know that once I welded this in right here, this one, the last one was going to drop right in, and it would be even as well. All right, so we're just going to grind the welds down on this side and get that done on both sides. There it is, that trimmable flap disc again. I'm just trimming it again. That works out pretty good, by the way. If you've never used those, this is just a perfect scenario right here. This is what they're designed for. Sharp edge like that, trim them up. Works real good. All right, time to flip this thing over. This is working pretty good for me. I've gotten used to it now, and takes a little bit of time, but hey, it saves your back. My back, anyway. Now the dual shield flux core again on this side. You can see I'm jumping around. Didn't have any problems with the last one, but I'm just playing it safe right here. Just be sure that I'm not going to have any warpage. You guys might be asking, hey, what about fume extraction? You can see I got two fans in the background right there. Both of them are blown, although it doesn't look like it is, but it's blowing the smoke right out the door. It worked out pretty good. All right, so here's that flap disc. You can see that it's how much smaller that one is after I trimmed it down. And I was just trying to put a new one on, but that trimmable flap disc has definitely worked in this situation right here. All right, you can see that measuring the distance right here, this is where I need to cut this one in half. This one here is going to be the access door. So half of it's going to be fixed, half of it's going to be, well, it's actually both are going to be removable, but they're going to remove just one corner of it. Decided to do it right on the bar, so it grind everything nice and smooth, so there's not going to be any sharp edges. This little zip cutter right here works really well. Cuts through that stuff. You can see no problem at all. I'm just finishing up here with this 4-inch flat bar stock. This one right here is going to be going on both ends and the sides. This is the end grate right here, so I'm just cutting these pieces to size. It's going to clamp right on the end. And it doesn't take much. This is nothing structural here, so I'm just putting 4 or 5 beads in here about 1 inch long. Same thing on the side. These adjustable armored clamps work really well. All right, so slide that piece together, put this one on, and then we're getting right down to the end of this project right here. All right, so there they all are. Everything is complete. That turned out just like I was hoping. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my website at JIMBO'sGarage.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.